So we're working with the new agenda process here, but looking at our agenda, we've got taken roll call, which we do by paper. We've got all the committee members here tonight with the exception of Commissioner DeFord, and she'll be out tonight. We have a number of the other commissioners with us as well, so we appreciate that. First thing on our agenda after that is a period of public comments. There's a sign-up sheet at the podium. I don't think anybody had signed up yet, but if anybody wants to speak for 2 minutes at this time as public comment, we'll be glad to entertain your comment. We have any takers at all? All right, with that, we'll move ahead. Fourth item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. We had the agenda distributed electronically. The only item on the agenda tonight, of course, is talking about the unfinished budget and approval of the minutes. I don't remember if, I don't have a copy of the minutes with me, but we did send out minutes, I believe, for the last meeting. So that's the two agenda items we have. Does anybody want to make any changes to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
All right, that's a motion. Second?
I second.
Who said that, Laura?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, it was me.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so agenda is approved. Unfinished business, FY 2024 budget. I want to make just a couple comments here as we start, and then I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for a moment to make a few comments as well, if I can find the comments I wanted to make. We do want to make sure, since we're meeting in this other room, that everybody understands this is a Budget and Finance Committee meeting. This is not a meeting of the full commission. So this is a committee meeting tonight to discuss the budget, and if approved tonight, then it will go on to the full commission next Tuesday. I'd like to remind the commissioners to please speak in your microphones, because this is a big room and it's hard to hear if you don't do that. And I can testify after watching on YouTube from remote last week that when you didn't hit your microphone, I could not hear anything you were saying. So I'll let people decide whether they think that's a good thing or a bad thing, but just know that people can't hear you if you don't use your microphone. I do want to make comments, so since this is going to be considered next Tuesday night, this is not the final say tonight, so if there's anything that we do tonight that you have a decision, concern about, then you can still have an opportunity to reach out to your commissioners. And by the same token, if you have any questions or comments for me after the meeting, I'll do my best to stick around and answer those. I appreciate the presence of our elected officials, department heads, and the other employees we have here tonight. I realize this meeting's on a Wednesday night, which is inconvenient. It's on short notice. It's after work hours. But we were supposed to pass the budget by June 30th, and that's not done. So we're a little past that now, and so we're trying to get that done. As chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, I apologize that we did not end up with a consensus budget on schedule, but I think we can get there hopefully this evening. And then I also appreciate the attendance of the other commissioners that are here who are not on the committee. I understand several had questions, and I hope you get answers to your questions tonight. As we work our way through this evening, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask questions you might have after we get questions from the committee members, but we don't want to get into long, drawn-out discussions if we can help it, because we could be here for a long time. So that's my comments about the meeting itself, and we'll start here on the budget. And the mayor worked on this in my absence last week, and I'm going to let him make a few comments about what he has.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Would you, for the benefit of the audience, would you please have the commissioners that are actually members of Budget Finance stand or raise your hand?
Just raise your hand. So all the ones that are on the committee are the hand raised. The others are commissioners here for information purposes. So appreciate that. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And after our meeting last week, met with numerous individuals and especially department heads, especially those department heads where we're going to make some sizable cuts in. If maybe just nipped and tucked something somewhere, you might not have heard from me, but it is.
Sorry, I can't hear you. It's on. Check the switch.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry. We made a few nips and tucks in places that, you know, if they become emergencies later, you can come before this commission and we'll be able to, hopefully be able to work with you. But in the interest of cutting our recurring expenses as much as possible, this is pretty much what I have, and I'm going to go over them very quickly. And then I'll have some gross numbers that I want to talk about that I've not had a chance to go over with Mary Anna today. So she may have to, or at least in the last 4 hours, so she may have to correct me again or put them in another context. But starting with page 5 on your packet on the county mayor's budget, line number 140, salary supplement, we cut that $13,000 to $5,000. On page 6, election commission, no changes. On number 7, register of deeds, we changed line item 101 from, we took $5,000 off of that and had a $5,000 savings. On codes compliance, 108, compliance officer, took that entire cost out. The sheriff absorbed it. That's $46,000. Page 9, county buildings. Under part-time personnel, we cut that from $15,142 to $11,960 for a savings of $3,182. Same page, number 7, 307, communication. We cut that from $7,500 to $4,500 for a savings of $3,000. And line item 451, uniforms, we cut that from $1,500 to $1,000 for savings of $500. Other general administration, page 10, no changes. Number 11, accounts and budgets, we removed an additional pay increase for employees for a savings of $11,278. That was a 4% decrease in staff. Page 12, property assessor, we made no changes. County trustee, page number 13. Postal charges went from $69.75, well, almost to $10,000, so we cut those $2,500 to $7,500 for savings of $2,500. Under printing, stationery, and forms, we cut $300 and reduced that from $1,500 to $1,200. It had about a 700% increase. And then office supplies also went from $1,960 last year to $4,356. So we reduced that $2,000 for a savings of $2,356. Number 14, county clerk, no changes. 15, circuit court, no changes. 16, general sessions judge, no changes. 17, chancery court, office of the public defender, no changes. 18, judicial commissioners, no changes. 19, probation services, no changes. 20, under the sheriff's department, go to line item 187, overtime pay, cut that $50,000 for, cut it $50,000. Line number 307, communication, we cut, or excuse me, yeah, we cut that $3,250 from $12,250 to $9,000, so savings of $3,250. And on line item 356, tuition and training, we cut that from $15,500 to $5,000 for a savings of $10,500. Go to page 21, no changes. 22, to the jail budget. We had their communication budget, we reduced it $6,000. Evaluation and testing, we reduced that another $6,000 for $12,000 so far. On printing, we cut that completely out for $2,400. They'll try to absorb that in other places, which we're encouraging more departments to absorb printing. Uniforms, we cut that $5,000. And go to juvenile services, number 23, no changes. Go to page 24, civil defense, which is better known as EMA. Really not making any changes there at this time. We're going to wait and see how some things shake out with their growth. But I did look at cutting their part-time person, but I did not do that yet. I was going to cut them from 17.5 to 15. but they do need that fourth part-time, so I've not done that yet. That's open for discussion. Getting down to rescue squad contributions, just so everybody knows, we're keeping them whole at $75,000. There was some talk about cutting that. Going to page 25, no changes. 26, no changes. Page 27, rabies and animal control. And of course, this is very near and dear to my heart, but we'll have to still, everybody's suffering through this budget. Veterinary services, we're having to cut them from 22.5 back down to 15,000. And food, animal and food supplies, we're cutting from 5,500 back down to 2,500. So altogether, that's a $10,500 savings in animal control. Page 28, no changes. Page 29, no changes to libraries in Manchester. Page 30, no changes to libraries in Tullahoma. 31, no changes to libraries capital outlay. Page 32, no changes to soil and water conservation. Tourism, we cut South Central Tennessee Development, or South Central Tennessee Tourism Association to 0 from 3,000. We cut Tennessee Backroads all the way down to 6,000. Cut them 6, cut them all the way down. And the mayor's discretionary account, we cut from 25,000 to 10,000. And that's it on that page for cuts. Page 33, we go to other charges, line 594, specialized medical treatment, 49,987. We cut that. That was listed as recurring. If we decide to do that again, it's going to have to be presented and bid out to this commission. Let's see. And we're cutting Tullahoma Fine Arts Center from 10,000 to 5,000. Going to 34, no changes. That's all we have on the actual changes. And then, Mariana, we might want to make sure we're right on these. It was brought to my attention that we had an additional $60,995 in recurring coming in from TVA. On the revenues side, correct. We also had another $100,000 coming in revenue overage on business taxes. That's $160,995 in new recurring revenue. We had, keep my notes here. The sheriff is giving us $300,000 out of his budget in recurring revenue. And there's another fund possibly that may be over at Rural Solid Waste some. Commissioner Nettles, would you just like to speak about that?
Yes. We had some questions earlier today about, can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Is this on? Okay. On page 28, there was a question, I guess, because I didn't understand what it was, but it was page 28, 55759, and it was 359, and it was the other waste disposal. I just didn't know what that was exactly.
It's a county-wide service that Rural Solid Waste runs. It's any countywide recycling, tire pickup, any of that. We have to pay for it in the general fund, but they run the service, so at the end of the year we pay back the 116 fund. So that's what that is. It's like the recycling back here behind the building, and like I said, the tires, there's some other things.
Okay, so is that amount, is that going back into the general fund, or is that staying? It's budgeted in the general fund, and then a check is written, and then it's revenue going into Fund 116.
Okay. Our intention is not to cut rural solid waste at all. We're just looking at that fund.
Yeah.
Now, ballparking these numbers, because we've talked to many people, we're looking at approximately $595,999 in cuts in recurring revenue. And then I believe, Mariana, you notified us that you had an additional $412,000 to go to the fund balance?
That was the 2 year.
Yep.
The business tax.
That was part of that? Okay. Did we have any monies left over from last year rolling into this year that we could use?
No,
Are
for
there
the
any other
recording.
monies I've not talked about that are realized in the budget that we're talking about right now?
No.
Okay, just want to make sure. So we're looking at roughly 600,000 cut in recurring. So that's where we are. So, you know, like some other government entities do, this commission could very easily pull some out of the fund balance, and everybody could vote for a traditional budget like they're used to, and have indicated to me that they would. So that's where we are roughly on those things. They're all up for negotiation. This was not done in conjunction with any other commissioner. If two commissioners talked to each other and then gave me information, I know nothing about it. We did this in the sunlight. And that's where we are right now, Mr. Chairman, and I'll yield it back to you.
Thank you. So at this point, I guess it's up to this committee how we want to proceed here. I guess I thought about going about it both ways, and I'm not sure, would you like to go through each major item in the budget now, or would you rather just have a larger discussion about where we stand with the total balance where you're at? What's the committee's pleasure?
I was curious what the total was of
Oh, I'm
that and
sorry,
where
we didn't
that,
say that.
where that put us now.
Yeah, sorry, I should have read that. Just a moment, let me page down here. Page too much now. So where that puts us right now in net change in fund balance is a deficit of $1,643,385. I'm gonna have to make the font bigger. I can't read my screen. Yeah, $1,643,385, down from what were we before, 2 point something, 2.3, 2.2. So that would leave us with a fund balance remaining at the end of this FY, if we met that projection, of $8,917,323. I believe it's a 15% that we have to maintain as a fund. What's our fund balance requirement? 12.5. And so that's, you know, a little over 2.5 million. Is that right? So we're well above our required maintenance. I do kind of want to make just one comment here on the fund balance. You know, it's grown the last several years. We're sitting at 10,560. At some point, that money can't just keep growing, in my opinion. If we continue at fund balance, that just represents taxpayer dollars that's not being put to use. Whether or not that should be spent on a recurring fund or a capital improvement of some type. But Mayor?
I'd just like to say once again, the fund balance money is to be used, you're right, for things. And we're going to want to build buildings in the future. We're going to want to have to do things in the future. But also, we wanted to, and we are trying to make a major investment in employee compensation. So this is taking a large leap to that. The budget director assures me that we're in a safe place by doing this, and that our revenues are going to be able to catch up, and we're going to be okay this fiscal year. You know, we've gone a long way this year, if we pass this budget, to getting our folks up at a much better standard of living. And we're not always going to be able to do the raises we've done. We know that. But we can't continue to neglect them. I believe I answered the call when I was asked to look at employee compensation. I made corrections to some of the people that we just absolutely need as department heads, and then trying to get many other people up in some corrections and some, just to get them up above $10 or $11 an hour a little bit. And but like I said, there's nothing personal. That's just from my standpoint, using some of this money, it's making investment in our employees, just like we would make an investment in a judicial center one day, or we'd make an investment in something else. So that's my comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor. What other high-level questions do we have from the committee?
Mariana, could you remind us again what 4% straight across the board was going to cost us?
Do you have that handy? Because I've got the one that you sent me. So.
The just 4% salary is about 1.6 million.
And right now, we're at 1.8.
Something like that. So just to clarify that, I had a number of questions I had received over the past week or two, and I asked Mary Annis to send me a spreadsheet, which she sent me today, which is a list of all the pay raises in the general fund budget that are above 4%. Those are fairly targeted. There's just a few. It does add up with but the thing I wanted to make a comment about is, I got multiple comments saying, well, you know, you go in, you look at the Department 106 line, which is salary for deputies or whatever, and this department's 12, and that one's 10, and that one's 4, and that one's 6, and so they're not the same. Those line item numbers do not reflect just the pay raise. They reflect pay raises. They also reflect changes in personnel. They reflect open spots that haven't been filled. They reflect people that retired. And so you cannot look at that number and say that's the raise that every employee is getting. And I just want that to be understood. We can go through these individual ones one by one if you would like. I have always personally tried to avoid talking about individual employees' pay in public, even though I know it's public information. But if the committee has to have that information to make their decision, we can do it. Mayor?
I'd just like to make a comment. This has come up time and time again. The salary agreements are set in stone. I agree. When you bring a salary agreement to me and I sign it, that's it. But I would like to, when we talk about just 4% raises and those types of things, we have to remember that some departments have bonused out their leftover money. So some of those people got maybe 10 or 12% raise in addition to this 4 in the bonus. So I would like for all of us to do everything in our power so that we don't have to be proactive and do something that's more onerous somehow. And please don't do that any longer. Let's pay our guys what they're supposed to be paid. If they work overtime, they work overtime. Turn that money back in at the end of the year. This commission will decide bonuses for everybody. I mean, you can do whatever you want under your salary agreement, but at some point, if this fire spreads, we're going to have to tamp it down because some of these larger departments that are turning in their money, it's not going to be fair to their employees when smaller departments are bonusing out $1,000, $3,000. I just want to make that comment before we go down the road further in the years to come. Let's just be cognizant of that, please.
Yeah. So does any of the commissioners have questions about the pay raises themselves? I know it's complicated. It seems complicated because when you look at that budget sheet, it's not really called out individually. I assure you, I've asked Mariana 100 times in the last month. She started me asking her. It's like, we just did 4% on this group, right? And yes, we just did. You know, it's just particular ones that we went through and identified. And I will say, you know, publicly on a few of those, you know, we've been trying to make these adjustments for a couple of years now, and there were a few that we'd identified that we knew. And even in the last year, we've had a couple of our employees in certain departments where surrounding communities have given drastic pay increases to the exact same position, and we are now very far behind in pay. And those are some of the individual ones we went by and picked up. We pulled up some of our very lowest paid people that were, you know, making less than $12 an hour. Those aren't really big hitters on the budget. And then the deputy pay, if anybody's got questions, they can ask the sheriff. Laura?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I had
it's
another couple questions, if y'all don't care, because I just don't know some of this stuff, and I needed to ask. On page 33, 58500, 316. It's contributions to other agencies. It went from 60 to 90,000. What is that?
Yeah, that's for Mariana. So, sorry. I always ask her that same question every year, by the way, so don't feel bad.
Those are the contributions to like Centerstone, Haven to Hope, Coffee County Child Advocacy Center. Here, wait a minute.
Senior centers?
No,
there?
that's a different one.
Okay.
Hold on, let me pull that up for you, and I forgot I had my budget here.
Yeah, if you can go ahead and try to show those for everybody, that would probably be good.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. Okay, right here, can y'all see this? Contributions to other agencies. Okay, these are the normal contributions, and then in the budget appropriation resolution, it does say where we have a victims assistance assessment that's come through the court system, and it's right there, this line right here.
Is that our revenue line, Mariana?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This comes from Sessions Court, so the money that's collected in this line, which is estimated to be 42, it's divided between the three other agencies, CASA, the Child Advocacy Center, and the Haven of Hope. That's what's voted on. It's in the resolution, that they get that money on top of those other contributions.
So that's money that's collected by fees in the court system specifically for those agencies.
Right.
And it passes through us, basically. Is that a fair way to say it?
That's correct.
So that money comes from court fees? Okay. Well, I just had one more. Okay, page 28, 55390, 316. It's appropriation to state contributions, 81,000.
Okay, that is this right here, appropriation to state contributions. That's the Tennessee Vocational Training Center. That's what we give to that organization to run the program south in the Volunteer Parkway. They do the special needs training there.
Mariana, what's the source of funding on that? Is that just a line item appropriation from us?
Yes.
It's what we've been doing for several years, so we haven't changed that this year.
Right.
Can I ask a question, Mariana? On page 33 that she was just talking about the contributions to other agencies, if we went back to last year's budget at 60,000, would that $30,500 be a savings?
If we went back,
To last year's budget, which is 60,000, it grew $30,500 this year.
okay, last year, let me look and see. It's kind of, I know it's confusing because I have to pay it out and it's kind of crazy, but I can't remember what it was last year.
So I guess the question really is,
right.
are we
Yes.
obligated?
Yes.
Are we obligated to pay the 90 this year? Or is that just a contribution to different people that came before?
We're not obligated to pay what is in here.
But we have been paying the 60.
We've been paying out those fees that come through the courts. That, yes, we are obligated to pay. But this list right here, no, these we are not. So at least 40,000 of the 90 that's in that budget, we are obligated to pay. Does that make sense?
Ms. Mariana, I was just going to ask if maybe for the benefit of all of us, where exactly that 60 goes, has gone, and where will the 90,500 go?
Okay. This 50 right here, this is our normal. Like last year, we only paid 12,000. But the money that comes in through this revenue line right here is paid out of the same expenditure line, and that goes to those other three entities.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
I understand, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Could you go back to that one that you had out?
Uh-huh. Oops. Where was that? This one right here? Yeah, this is what we're talking about. We pay this 50,500, and then the 40,000, give or take, this comes in through the court system. The 40 is just an estimate, which makes that line item on the other side at 90,000.
So I guess the question think I'm hearing is, so there's a contribution from us in addition to the court fee.
Yes.
And that contribution is unchanged? We haven't increased our portion of it this year?
Well, yes, we have.
Okay, we have,
Right here.
yeah.
This, yes, right here. We went from 12 to 50,500.
Okay, yeah.
I know everybody needs money. Taxpayers need money. I would ask you to look at that. I'm not on budget and finance, but I would ask you to look, that's $30,000. That would knock our debt down to 1.7 something. And that's on page 33. I just got my new email today, and I apologize for that too. The people, there are several people that sent me emails that said you're a farmer and you're tight, and we want to see a tight budget, and I understand that. I do want the employees to get to 4%. I'm willing to take a chance on that, but I just don't know how you gauge who you give money to. That was always, when I was here before, back and forth of who you give contributions to and who you don't give them to. So.
Yeah. Mayor?
Thank you, and I'll
Mr.
just,
Chair,
Hold on, the mayor first.
the,
Okay, go ahead.
the cuts that our mayor reviewed opening the meeting are not reflected on this spreadsheet, correct?
They should be, although there was a caveat, the mayor said he wasn't sure he had them exactly right in his notes, but they should be, right?
Okay, there were a few in the sheriff and jail that I don't think I have.
still don't have, there's a few that are catching up.
Pretty sure I heard at least one, or
Yes, there's
like the
some that are
Tullahoma
catching
Fine
up.
Arts was cut to 5, it shows 10, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't
after
have-
the fact.
The printed sheets you handed out are incomplete. I don't have all the pages. I don't have any page beyond 30. I don't have pages 6 through 14. So I could not follow the mayor when he was doing this, but I did like what I was hearing. I do like the effort that was put forth today to cut this deficit.
So I'm sorry, Mayor, what were you gonna say? Well, she looks, okay,
I
okay.
was gonna talk to Tim about.
You're right.
Well, but our pages aren't corresponding, are they?
Not
No,
exactly.
the pages are different because he's got a different version. This is the last I had as of Monday. So I didn't want to hand this out yet till we went through all this, but there it is.
But the PDF document that you sent in an email today, this afternoon, is this what I'm holding in my hand?
That's what you're holding. The PDF went out today, that's the same thing.
And that's what you're showing up here, but, right?
Yes. The mayor's made some other changes that I don't have yet.
But, Mr. Chairman, I just had different page numbers, because I was working off of a different book than she handed out to you. But the headers are still the same. Some of the changes that I mentioned today have been done in the last 4 to 6 hours and have not caught up to what you have.
So we'll need to get those in if we end up getting to a vote tonight, we'll have to be sure and
Right, we'll get 'em all,
incorporate
yes.
those somehow. Back to Mr. Morris's comments, does anyone want to take up the discussion of the contributions?
Yes, I just wanted to tell Mr. Morris, I know he's, just like many of us are, we want to take care of our employees, and the difference you see in that 1.6 in many of the areas where we are were corrections that some commissioners brought to me, said, these guys are just terribly low. The solid waste fund took care of their guys. We had maintenance workers, we had custodial workers that were very low. We had department heads that are 25 and 30% below market. This fine lady in front of me was offered a job close by here at a very substantially higher rate. Our industrial, executive director of our industrial board, best as they come. And we want to be able to hang on to him while we build this mega site. Rick, our maintenance worker, we couldn't replace Rick for $100,000, anybody with his skill sets. Kurt Gray in codes, he's $20,000 to $35,000 below market. And so these are an attempt to get some of these people up a little higher. At some point, they're still going to have to be brought up higher to be made whole. So it's a difficult decision. Maybe not everybody gets it done this year, but we're going to do it. And, you know, that's where I can use everybody's help. But most of this was done through consultation with department heads and individual commissioners that brought specific concerns to me. That's why there's some differences that were corrected and then the 4%. There's no intention to leave anybody below the poverty level at all. There's no intention not to visit things starting day one of this year, once again, as our revenues can hold it. That's just how I would respond to that question, best I know to.
Oh, I agree on that. Taking care of what you did with employees, I have no problem with it all. But if we can knock 25 off of here on the contributions and 3 other people can find 25,000, that's $100,000. And
I get it, yes.
that's right at a penny on the tax base. And,
I understand.
I'm
That's-
just trying to,
Hey,
I'm just
that's-
trying to be tight. That's what they
That's why
sent
we're
me
here.
here
I'm
for.
just one brain, barely.
All right, do any committee members have a comment about, what was your line number again, Tim?
It is 5850 on page 33.
5850.
Really, it's 316
What was,
contributions.
what was the fund number? I'm working.
316 contributions.
316 and it's $90,500 and last year it was 60,000. And he's knocked 5 off, so that would be saving 25,500.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 organizations right there, to me, are one that are almost like a supplement for our court system. That's, you know, I'm personally in favor of keeping that one, but if any of the committee members want to weigh in on that, I understand your point. I think we've trimmed some of those nonprofits already. Is there any representative for CASA or, what was the other one?
Even anybody from the courts that could talk about the importance of these programs. Well, it's, name the program, Children's Advocacy Center.
I do want to point out, I pulled up the budget appropriation resolution. That's the part that discusses that money going from the victims assistance assessment,
Yeah,
where that's at in our appropriation
Right.
resolution. That extra 40 we were talking about.
okay. All right, doesn't sound like anybody wants to speak to that at this time.
Well,
I'm asking. I'm sorry, go ahead. Ms. Anthony, if you don't mind, come to the podium.
You and I are both here for
Yeah,
the
if you don't mind, if you would like to address this a little bit, come to the podium for us so that we.
I don't want to come to the podium, but I will. So Haven of Hope is a much necessity for the court system. They provide, they're able to consult with victims victims of some type of incident that they fear in their life. There's not maybe an arrest warrant placed or anything like that, but they are in fear of their life, usually with a relationship requirement of a significant other. But us as clerks are not able to provide advice, and we can't help them fill out the paperwork. And the Haven of Hope is able to sit down and speak to these people and tell them, you know, give them advice as for, you know, under the law, we're not able to do. So also they have a food pantry to some of, you know, single moms or somebody that's been a victim in a really bad situation. They're able to provide for, you know, their children and young mothers and or just someone that's having a really tough time. So I can speak for them. And if, I don't know
Ms.
if
Prophet,
Shane
you
wants
wanna
to
say
mention,
anything?
CASA.
I can
Could
speak
you
as-
make a couple comments about the Child Advocacy Center?
Yes, I've been on the board of directors there, and I have a special place in my heart for CASA, of course. It's court-appointed special advocate, and they are appointed by the judges when a child's removed, when the judge wants extra eyes in the home. You know, when a child is sitting at DCS and they've been removed from their parents, they go into the homes. They report to the court what's going on. They work with the guardian ad litem. They just provide extra insight. They can ask for services for the child that's been removed. And The goal is to reunify if possible, but, that is a worthy, it's a vital one, so. I really like CASA. Wanda Strayhorn is currently the director, so.
Okay?
I believe the Haven
Yes, sir.
employees,
These are the worst cases that you can imagine, that CASA is involved.
Microphone.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry to speak on this matter, but the CASA program, the CAC program, and the Haven of Hope program are the worst cases that you can imagine. I mean, it's hard to make up examples on these things, but I just wanted to let the commission know that these aren't things that we think about. These are things that happen to children. These are things that happen to the victims, and they're bad. They're not bad. They're worse than bad. I mean, they really are. They're things that we can't imagine. So I'm
Appreciate
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you all.
no, that's
Does
perfectly
do any of the commissioners have any other questions for these ladies?
Just one more thing. Haven of Hope, we just raised you $1,000 because you were already getting 5 before, correct?
I'm
She's
not
she doesn't
familiar with
represent Haven
Hope
Hope. She's just with the
as far
courts.
as their
Okay.
funding goes.
We
I'm
just
I'm
raised-
just
yes, ma'am.
speaking- I'm
I
not part of
understand.
that. I'm just speaking on their behalf because of their importance of what they serve.
Yes,
to
ma'am.
our
I'm in the
county.
school system. I see it every day, so
Yeah.
I'm good with that
Yeah.
because you only went up $1,000 on Haven of Hope, and the other one we gave $10,000 to. And I understand about the Civil Air Patrol and everything, and I'll get off my stump, but it's just more money that will continue to go out unless we decide to quit doing contributions to different organizations, and it's everybody's money.
Some of these contributions are court ordered. I mean.
Ladies, thank you. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yes, Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, when these, contributions came up and spoke, like CASA and all the rest of them, most of them, if not all of them, did we not agree to give them partial payment, like $5,000 this time? And
We
then
did a
$5,000,
few.
and then we reserved the right to bring it up mid-budget?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That was gonna be, South Jackson Civic Center.
Right.
And, where the horse.
I know there's
whatever.
about 4, maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5
I don't
we
think
did.
that includes CASA.
No, it
and
don't
we
include
did,
these
yeah.
two. I'm just
Mr.
asking
Chairman,
for the
there was
others.
going to be several, but one of the individuals for 2 of them did not show up to speak.
Correct.
So we didn't go with those. I believe the only 2 that we agreed, or the only one that remained that we agreed to do was the South Jackson Civic Center, to do 5 and 5.
Fine Arts
Center, I mean.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
Humane Society was 5 and 5.
Right.
Fine Arts Center was 5 and 5.
5 and 5.
And that's based on what our revenues might look like in November, and this committee would make the decision on those others.
Correct. I knew there was 4 or
That was
5
the
that we
initial,
did.
yes.
Okay. I didn't think all of them would be, but I knew we had about 4 that we were talking about doing that.
What this budget reflects really is just 5 only each,
Right.
one time.
Right.
So in regards to our nonprofits, do any of the committee members wish to make any changes or discuss making any changes at this time? All right, if not, let's move on to the next topic. Whatever that needs to be, let's look at that bottom line as we're coming down to it. We were talking about that to some extent. So right now, we're showing a projected deficit, and I would like to emphasize it's a projected deficit. It's not a realized deficit. I mean, last year, we projected a deficit, and we ended up coming out in the positive. So hopefully, we'll see something similar to that again this year. But the projected deficit of $1,643,385. Any of the committee members have any real heartburn about that number right now? Dennis looks very thoughtful over there.
I'd like to ask, is this, I have tinnitus, so I didn't hear every word the
Sorry.
mayor said, but if I heard it right, you worked on this today, I guess, and you've reduced the 2.2 to now 1.6 and change. Is that correct?
We worked on it really all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. It's been a work in progress meeting with folks. This wasn't just struck through today. This has happened in many meetings with department heads, and and me sitting around. So that's where we are. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask, is this in a form at this point that we could vote on it?
We can vote, in my opinion, and I'll let the chairman go with this.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the numbers absolutely finalized. I think we're probably within 1 to 2%. Would that? Okay. So I'm going to defer to Mariana, if it's okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve this, to move this forward to the amending part of the process. I'd like to make a motion to approve this fiscal upcoming budget proposal as presented by Mayor Matheny.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? All right. So second from Commissioner Stubblefield. So one of the things I would say, there's mentioned that, that maybe you've got a couple more you'd like to present. I don't see any reason why that has to get in here tonight. We can always do those amendments at a later time if we
There'll be
need
no
to.
increases for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because we amend the budget all year long, right? So if we get it to a state where this happens every year where we get to a certain point, and we need to always keep in mind that we're not setting everything in stone, because you can make some, now there are a few things that are set in stone, like the tax resolution, some things like that. But we can make small amendments later without any issue. Do any of the committee members have any things they'd like to bring up for amendments for the budget as presented? Or further questions for that matter? Commissioner Hobbs.
So I have a question on the budget that we passed in this committee last time. The spending was $26,741,834. I said that wrong. $26,741,384. Right, and then the one that we're presented tonight, the spending is $26,982,000, or $26,982,899. So that's more spending than the previous budget.
Yeah.
Very awkward up here like this. Okay, I added a couple grants that came in just so I could avoid amending the budget. One was Frank can speak to this, the VCIF grant, and it is as I figure out where I put it. Okay, it's down here, miscellaneous, this law enforcement equipment. This is one the commission already approved the grant. We just got that finalized, so I added that as an expenditure right there, the 196. But the revenue's on the revenue side, same thing. Yes, it increased the expenditures, but there's revenue for that. I also split up this grant we have for the jail, because we have 400,000 that's been approved. We've only spent this much through the end of the year, so we know we're going to have another 141. Same thing, we already have the revenue for this, it's not changing. So those are the two things I added. Plus, I finally received all the property liability, general liability, workers' comp, all of that. So I did have to increase this line right here by about 83,000. So that's why you're seeing the expenditure side a little higher, yes.
Good question. Jody, does that answer your question? Any other questions or amendments from the members of the committee? Do we have any questions from the other commissioners present? Mr. Hobbs?
Chairman, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I am a freshman commissioner, so I'm still learning and You all will put me in the right place if I get out of bounds. My constituents have a simple question. Have we overspent the budget in the 22-23 year? What was the, did we start with a deficit in 22-23? Was there a real deficit?
So there was a projected deficit, which was what they all are until they get realized or not.
Okay,
And
so.
Mariana, it was around 1.1 million, I think we were discussing the other day.
Okay.
So yes, we did start, and then we ended up better.
All right, so at the end of the year, did we have a surplus?
Yes, sir.
And how much was that amount?
It's just 902, 805 right here on the screen, this right here.
Okay, all right. Now, and did we not give a bonus back in the fall to the employees of the county?
Yes, sir.
Do we not have like 3,000 building permits that have not been issued yet for new housing and things like that? Have I heard that?
I don't know the answer to where that stands, but there's, without question, many houses coming into the county.
Okay. And we have, in our rainy day account, to use a different term, we've got $10 million or something. I want to thank all of the county employees for doing such a good job to overcome the deficit and to give us a surplus. And thank you all as a budget and finance committee for doing your work and your due diligence. It is really good. But the thing is the communication hasn't gotten out to the citizens of Coffee County of how good you've been doing this, okay? So I'm on some committees and some things like that. We're going to work on maybe changing that. Number two observation is we, as all the commissioners and the county citizens, have not had enough time to review the budget. Getting it 2 weeks before the deadline has caused a lot of misunderstandings and different things that have happened there. So we want to change that for next year, and I know we're going to work on it. I know that we're out. This is the first out, new administration, first time. We're doing a lot of things for the first time, and we're changing a lot of things for the good, and I see that, and I appreciate that. But we need to work on that communication for that thing. But I think said and done, oh, one more thing. It appears that we're allowing some things in some departments to happen and not allowing it in others. Like we're trying to hang on to important employees. Like you were talking about, they have a lot better pay just within the county going to work for the cities of Coffee County or whatever. Why can't we allow that in all of the departments? I know other departments have people, employees that they're wanting to maintain. Yeah. Why can't we allow that to happen? So, like I said, being a freshman, and I'm sorry, I've been out of town for 3 months with a family emergency, and most of you don't know what that. But these are questions that I'm being asked by my constituents. But we've been doing a great job as Coffee County. I mean, you guys and the employees making your jobs happen and collecting and doing the things that you need to do. Man, but the citizens don't know this. They would be so proud of you and proud of what we're doing. And we're not raising taxes. And I mean, there's some great things, but we're not talking about those great things enough, in my opinion, because I want to brag on you guys and gals for doing what you're doing. And as a freshman commissioner, I'm seeing some great things, and I'm learning some things and learning how all the things going. But thank you for letting me speak to that, and I appreciate all what you're doing.
That's what committee meetings are for. Mayor?
Yep. I'd just like to say your comments are spot on, and my experience has always been when it gets budget time, that's when things really get on the radar. We had to go through 2 different funding cycles to get our cameras. We got them in here pretty quick. They are officially up and running in the other 2 rooms, and all the mics are up and everything. That's going to help. The chairman and I had a phone call today just about how we'd run this meeting, and we both agreed it's going to be very healthy in the next coming weeks for whoever's interested to sit down and have an after-action report. Let's talk about some of these things. We have 9 members on the budget committee. Each commissioner here is 1 arm's length away from first-hand information if they choose to get it. So there's different things we can do sort of organically, and there's things that we'll be able and we will do better as a governing body up here. And but a lot of things have been done in 8 months with the 7-day notices, the cameras, trying to get these things done that I am blessed at the team that we have. Absolutely, everybody has done so well, and as I've gotten to know the employees and the department heads and everybody, it's just been an incredible experience. Now, every employee is very important. This, to me, is a first round of corrections, and sort of getting to what I think from a business standpoint as we look at what's coming our way, and the changes we have to go through as a county. These are the people I did not want to lose. And some people were just so far behind that I wanted to get them up a little bit. Are we going to miss some? Absolutely, but we're going to make it whole. And that's where folks like you and the rest of the commissioners here can sit in these budget and finance committees, which we'll have, one a month until February, and then we'll have 8 between February and May. And, we may want to decide as a body that in April, we want to come as hard as we can with these numbers. But we have to remember that some numbers aren't fully realized until we get into June and sometimes. So it's more difficult to make accurate budget presentations sometimes earlier in the year than it is a little later in the year. But absolutely, comments are heard. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I've enjoyed working with you too. very
Yeah,
much.
let me just add, I did tell the mayor today, I was sitting out in California with my daughter, and I was like, I'm gonna have to make a list of the things I need to think about for next year and do that. I attempt to do that. It's my first year as chairman, so I've made my share of mistakes. But as far as the calendar goes, as the mayor said, there's certain things that budget cycle wise, you can't even start. I mean, Mariana has all sorts of numbers and things that are coming in at certain dates. So some of that can't be avoided. Some of it can be. The communication is hard. My experience is people don't care until they see the headline in the paper. And up until that point, then you got to play everybody catch up. And then I do think the understanding the actual deficit versus the projected deficit, it's a hard thing to discuss and get across. That a budget is not nailed in stone. It's a planning tool. And Mariana does very conservative estimates of revenue, and I think that's a good thing. It keeps us on our toes. It makes us have these discussions that we might not otherwise have if we were a little more too optimistic with our budget projections. And so anyway, appreciate your comments.
But sometimes we send her down in the hole with a flashlight to look.
Yeah, that's right, we do.
Quite hard. A
Gold shovel in your
yeah.
office.
Mr.
All right, from the committee members, any more comments, questions, amendments about the budget?
Are we still in discussion mode
Yes,
on
sir.
my motion?
Yeah.
I would like to make a statement. We're all, I don't want to look like I'm breaking my arm, pat me on the back, but I want to pat us on the back. We live in a state consistently ranked in the top 5 of fiscal responsibility. At least 2 or 3 years, we've been ranked number 1 in Tennessee. I would like to see us ranked in at least the top 5 of the 95 counties within that state. It's going to be hard to get there because we dug ourselves a hole, not by design, with a lot of the, let's just say, the jail that was mandated, one of those things. So everybody should take note of the work that we have done, and we're going to work on it going forward, and hopefully we can possibly reduce next year's budget deficit as proposed. So I like the direction we're going.
Well, and great comments, Mr. Chairman. Let's not lose the fact that we are going to be in the top 5, I think, easily in the years to come, simply because of the acquisition of this state mega site, which is now known as the Coffee County I-24 Industrial Park. This will be transformative, and we'll see a lot of attention from the state. We'll see a lot of monies. We'll have to provide a lot of services, though, and I think these things will begin sooner than later. The state does not have a marketable site right now that they can get, that they can sit down with an original equipment manufacturer and say, let's start building. But Manchester's probably going to be in that position in a couple of years, site ready. That's my guess. So we're going to have a balancing act, and at some point we may grow faster than we need to keep up with, Dennis. But we're blessed.
One more thing, the Budget and finance, I've always been proud of the fact that I very rarely in this commission, in the full legislative body, vote against any committee recommendation. I've always voted with the committee because I always felt like they were doing their job. They moved something forward for us to vote on. I owe it to them and the work that they've done in committee to vote in the affirmative. We have, prior to this session, this is my 9th year, only 1/3 of the full legislative body served on budget and finance, 7 members. This year, 50% of the commissioners, the legislative body, serve on budget and finance. So I feel like the taxpayers have been well represented in that respect. Having said that, I would appeal to the chair to ask for any amendments and call for a vote.
Yeah, I was gonna just kind of go around here. Holly, you got any comments?
Just to reiterate what Commissioner Hodge and others have said, I very much appreciate everyone that's here, people from our community and our department heads. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for the work that you've done.
Commissioner Hobbs, you got any additional comments? Mr. Reed? Stubblefield? Got anything else? We're around up. I got any, oh, Tim's hiding behind you back here. You got any comments, Tim? All right. Well, if there's no other comments, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the budget as presented tonight? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Is that now opposed? Oh, so that was aye, okay. All right, motion carries unanimously. And I think I skipped approval of the, did we approve the minutes? I think I skipped that.
No, we did.
Did we
From
did it?
last
Okay,
meeting.
okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah,
last
yeah.
meeting. I lost my track with that. We've got no other business. I'm sorry, yes, Mayor,
We
go
don't
ahead.
need to meet Friday night.
That's right, so we had a meeting scheduled for Friday. That was a just-in-case meeting. I assume y'all do not want to be here Friday night, so we will dispense with that meeting. And if there's nothing else, we'll stand adjourned.
4 p.m. or 6 p.m. Tuesday.
6 p.m. Tuesday to vote on the budget.